wrapping up an in-depth discussion on privacy, security, and social media, and how you may be being manipulated. This is MacVoices. This edition of MacVoices is supported by SaneBox. Organize your inbox and never waste time on email again. Sign up today at sanebox.com/MacVoices to save $25 on any subscription. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, this is part 3 in a 3-part conversation on MacVoices Live about privacy, security, and social media. Now, usually these shows are broken up into just 2 parts, but this one went on for a while. In fact, it went on beyond the usual closing. In the post-show, the panel was still so passionate about things that we just let this recording run, and it's been edited and presented here to you for your enjoyment. So if you think you heard it all in the first 2 parts, no, you're wrong. There's still a lot to go. So let's get back to the panel and let you learn from them. You mean the button to share or not to share, Guy?
The button to share. The option to share or not. Most people will hit that button to share because they want to be part of the community.
Whatever the button is, Guy can't be trusted with it.
I have no problem, and I have no problem with people knowing more and having that choice. I have no problem with I do have the problem with Facebook not being upfront with the data that they're collecting. They're scared probably to do so, and that scares us, right? Because we don't know what they collect and we're not finding out. And that all makes sense, but I haven't really got an answer. The thing that came close was Jeff's comment about the Cambridge Analytica and getting political things, kind of skewed each way. But then I got angry, and then I remembered that, every time I had the TV on, there was political commercials of people like outright lying and attacking and saying their opponent kills babies and things like that. So, I mean, whatever Cambridge Analytica did was not half as bad as what they do on those political commercials. It's everywhere.
Oh, but the thing is, Cambridge Analytica and Facebook are enablers for that. I guess that's the point.
Those commercials were being done for 30 years or more. So, I mean,
there are a lot of ways to manipulate people, and I don't like any of them.
And how did you form that opinion? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. we all manipulate people in one way or another in our daily lives. I mean, that's the way you interact with other humans. And I guess in
a predatory manner.
You're thanking him in a predatory manner?
Yeah, you're thanking me in a predatory manner.
Manipulate in a predatory manner.
Okay.
Yeah. Brittany, you put an interesting comment in the chat. Do you want to share that? Because I think that's a good one.
We were talking about data, and because I see these things from a statistical point of view, I've taken a ridiculous number of statistics in my life. And I do feel like sharing our information and our privacy, it is a little bit like wearing a mask or getting a vaccine. Yes, it's to protect us, but also the people around us, or the people who, in this case, share a certain amount of commonality with us. Knowing certain things about me and what I'm vulnerable to will also help them manipulate Kelly because of the overlap of our interests, right? And so it does feel a little bit like, what are we doing, and how does it impact not just us, but our global community?
That was not the comment I was referring to, Brittany.
Oh, which one was it?
The cheek reddening thing.
Oh, that one.
But if you don't want to say it, that's fine.
No,
but
it's fine.
But I think
don't
you're right,
elaborate, so people wonder about the cheek reddening.
I think that's such a good point, because we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know what we were doing at the time.
Okay, I want to point out I was not an ADHD coach then. I did not have client information in my contacts. But when they said, hey, do you want to merge Facebook with your contacts? I didn't see any opposition. I was like, great, you can label all these people I did a terrible job of tracking by myself. It seemed like an upside. I had no idea what I was doing. And sometimes I think about it and I just get embarrassed. And I'm sitting all by myself and like my cheeks reddened. That was the cheeks reddening thing. Yeah. These ones, they redden easily.
Okay.
Thanks, Guy. I agree. I mean, that's sort of back to something I said earlier, that we didn't understand what we were sharing. because you think it's harmless until it starts to get aggregated. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Andrew, you're the security journalist here. Do you have any suggestions on what we should do at this point? I mean, recognize that okay, the dam has a hole in it. How do we start shoring up that hole?
There are definitely alternatives to a lot of these things, and we tried to talk about that. Kelly and I do on Security Friday, and it's just little things like, I talked about, or I wrote about a couple years ago, the alternative social media platform MeWe, and I think that was a little bit before it's gotten some attention lately.
Yeah.
There's that. There are tools like password managers, and I wrote about today a service to create email aliases instead of maybe using Sign In with Apple. And there are just a whole other suite of tools out there.
Okay.
Like in practical terms, I would say the first thing to do is to find other ways to socialize with people that don't involve handing all your data to one place. So maybe you still interact with your family on Facebook. Maybe you interact with friends of yours in a group text message thread or iMessage thread or Signal or Telegram or something like that, so that you have other options, like for other stuff for other ways that you interact with people, so that at least there's not one place getting 100% of your data would be like at least a mitigation measure. If you feel particularly passionate about any of them in particular, I've heard that there is a Chrome extension you can install so that your news feed doesn't load when you load Facebook in Chrome. And so it doesn't show you anybody's posts or anything. You can go there, do your little one-way communication, or if you're like a person who has social media as part of your job and you need to go do the social media thing you need to do, you can do that. You never see any of those things. So you never engage any of those things. Like you don't go only like the posts about Star Wars, only like the posts about your basketball team, whatever. You don't ever have that problem because you never see any of it. So like you're messing with the algorithm because you go on Facebook all the time, but you never see any of the posts. So like there's things like that you can do if you can find other ways to communicate with people. And like right now, that's a thing that is probably harder than it used to be.
Yeah. Brittany, you wanted to put us on the couch for a minute?
Well, I mean, there's security tips to keep yourselves more secure, but there are also ways that you can work on the manipulation part of it. We're all susceptible. Everybody is. And one of the things you can do is use some of the Apple features that they have, like downtime, to make sure that you're not engaging in social media when you're more likely to be vulnerable. Another thing to watch out for is when you notice your emotional valence gets too high around anything political, because politics are boring. I don't know if you've watched any Senate debates, but they are. And so anytime they rise your emotions, it's something to watch out for, to say, hey, what's happening here? Am I vulnerable to manipulation in this moment? And just something to watch out for. But really, like, screen time is huge. Making sure I'm not on social media. I'm not on Amazon. That's my weakness. Like at these times when I'm going to be more vulnerable to these algorithms that know how to make me make impulsive choices more easily.
That is really interesting. I mean, we so often, for a lot of reasons, talk about take control of our lives, take control of this and that and the other. But that's just putting a whole different slant on it. Yeah.
Late at night, early in the morning when you first wake up, these are these times that our logic brain is not functioning yet. By the way, it's the back of our brain that's the vulnerable emotional. It's actually buried inside. It's the limbic system, but it's fine. That's doesn't really matter where it is. The metaphor works. you want to make sure you've got as much prefrontal cortex in charge. So that means you're going to be alert, already moving for the day, maybe on a break in the middle of work, as opposed to like at the end of the day, making sure you've got things like autoplay shut off. If you need screen time limits, turn on screen time limits, whatever you need to enable yourself to make your best choices when you interact with your technology.
This edition of MacVoices is supported by SaneBox, AI for your email. How do you manage your email or webmail? On your Mac? On your phone? On your iPad? What mail application do you use? Apple's Mail? Gmail? Spark? Outlook? Thunderbird? It doesn't matter what device or email client you use, SaneBox will work with it and help you manage your email. That's because SaneBox works at the server level to filter your mail into 2 folders, your inbox and the Sane Later folder. The former is better than it was before SaneBox because it contains only the important stuff. The Sane Later folder is all that other email that you can look at when you have time and decide what is and is not worthy of your attention. Or you can even make it more sophisticated by turning on folders for your email newsletters, emails you are CC'd on, or even create your own DIY folders so that whatever you want to go there goes there. And don't forget the Sane Black Hole. Black hole a message and you will never hear from that sender again. It's the perfect way to eliminate all those emails that you never signed up for, but still get and can't unsubscribe from. All this and a whole lot more is what you get when you visit sanebox.com/MacVoices to sign up for the email service that I consider essential. Even better, when you use sanebox.com/MacVoices, you get $25 off any subscription package. sanebox.com/MacVoices. You could be in control of your email in just a few minutes. sanebox.com/MacVoices. Thanks to SaneBox for their support of MacVoices. Wow. I think we'll end there. Thank you, guys. That was great. And I definitely want to thank the chat rooms for throwing in comments tonight. It's interesting to hear your perspectives as well. So let's go around. I want to make sure everyone knows where to find you when you're not here on MacVoices Live sharing all this wisdom, or as Warren has accused us in the chat room of being clones. David, I'm going to try to take I think my screen shifted, so it may be a little bit different, but go for it. Where can folks find you?
You can find me at In Touch with iOS at intouchwithios.com. I'm also on Mac to the Future Go live cast on Wednesday nights with Guy and Warren, and occasionally I'm on the Mac Show on the British Tech Network. And you can find me on I'm at president of the Suburban Chicago Apple Users, where Jeff's going to be joining me tomorrow in one of our events, which I'm excited about. And you can find me on Twitter at DaveG65. Thanks for having me.
Great, thanks so much. I have to say, Paul in the YouTube chat room just said, "Thanks, Chuck. It was good but scary." Sorry, Paul. Jeff, where can folks find you?
With some irony, I will start with social media, Twitter and Instagram. I'm Jake Hammett, both places. Anyhow, and I get around Big Show, the Mac Show, here on MacVoices Live, In Touch with iOS, and I'm forgetting a show that I just did, and I'm really embarrassed by that. Brew and Bites. I just did that, and anyhow, Google me. I am clearly very easy to find.
Great, thank you, Jeff. Good to see you.
Always great to see you,
Mr. Fuccio. I love your backgrounds each week. They just, as soon as you pop on, we start to laugh.
It's always an inspiration, to come onto this show. So easiest way to find me is at Twitter, which, unlike Google or Facebook, seems to be the weakest of the social platforms as far as having an effective advertising strategy. That aside, best way to find me is there at Mark, M-A-R-K, Fuccio, F-U-C-C-I-O, at Mark Fuccio, all lowercase, one word. Back to you.
Thank you, Mark. I'm trying to figure out whether you just complimented or insulted Twitter. I'm not quite sure.
A little bit of both. I mean, as an investment, they're they're just sort of a basket case. But as a platform, there's a lot of great stuff, and it's very effective to get a lot of information if you know how to use it and follow people. In that regard, it's I think someone said years ago, it's the central nervous system of the internet, and in that regard, it truly is. It is a very valuable resource. But as far as figuring out how to monetize it, they're worlds behind, either Facebook or Google.
Warren, no kidding. Thank you so much for coming in for sharing your thoughts, even if you are snowed in.
No, it's great. I thought we were going to talk about the new face unlock feature with the mask, and I was all excited about that, but this is much better.
Yeah. Where can folks find you?
I do a thing. They all know where I am. If I'm on Facebook, you all know already how to get me. So I do a thing with Dave and I do a thing with Guy. And otherwise, I just spend my life listening to you guys in the car and at work doing your thing.
Thanks, Warren. Good to see you.
No problem.
Jim Ray, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Where can we find you?
If you go to provue.com, it's spelled PROVUE.com, I will attempt to influence you to purchase RAM-based database if you have a Macintosh. If you don't have a Macintosh, then go away. And you can also find me on Twitter. I'm ProVueJim, also PROVUE. And I was wondering if anybody was going to put up here's how you can contact me on Facebook. Don't look for me on Facebook.
Mr. Guy Searle.
Yes. You can find me over, my email address is guy@mymac.com. You can find me on the Twitters. I am MacParrot and VertShark. I do the Mac to the Future livecast on Wednesday nights. I do the mymac.com podcast almost every single weekend with Gazmaz. And on occasion, I will say stuff in my car and record it and also throw that off onto Facebook. So I blame Facebook.
What was that your graphics department?
Yeah, they're really, really cheap.
Yeah.
He has top men.
This is 5
Top men.
Yeah, that was strange. Thanks for being here anyway, though. It's always fun.
Sure.
Kelly, the lady with the new and favorable camera angle.
Thank you. I'm not doing it in 10 seconds this week because I have stuff to report. So here's the deal. You can find me on a recent episode of Mac Break Weekly over on the Twit Network. You can also find me over on the incomparable. Well, you can find me on the After Show, which is at aftershowpodcast.com that I do with Mike Rose. This week's the latest episode's particularly amusing. And then you can find me over at the Incomparable, where we are in the process of spinning up a new show about WandaVision, which is called Maximoff Overdrive. And you can come listen to Don Melton and I and Lisa Schmeiser talk about episodes of WandaVision. And we've just kicked that off. That episode is currently in production right now, which means we've recorded it. And it's once again up to me to edit Don and I, but also Lisa. So you will be able to find that over at the Incomparable Network very soon.
Perfect. Thanks for being here, Kelly.
Thanks so much for having me.
Mr. Andrew Orr, thank you for sharing your wisdom and your thoughts. Where can folks find you?
I'm glad I could be here. So you can find me writing for the Mac Observer, where I do end up writing about privacy and security, as well as, of course, Apple. And Kelly and I do a show, as we mentioned, every Friday called Security Friday, where we like to share the security news that happened that week. And also we try to give at least one practical tip for people. Like I said before, maybe it's just using a password manager, but it's just, we think, something good to, keep in mind and knowledge that you can use. And I am also on Twitter, and you can find me at Andrew or Not.
Great. Thanks again, Andrew.
Okay, I'm always happy to bring science anywhere I go. Thank you for having me.
So where can folks find you with everything that you're doing?
If you want to find me in a incredibly dangerous social media rabbit hole, on Twitter, I am the ADD Liberator. No, just ADD Liberator. I don't tweet that often or read Twitter that often because of aforementioned reasons and rabbit holes. But occasionally. And my website is conquer.consulting. And again, I wanted to plug my ADHD Guild. If you or someone else you know has been struggling with structure in these unprecedented times, we're here for accountability and stuff like that. And I'm really excited, and it's going to be delightfully nerdy.
Great. Folks, when Brittany tweets, you need to listen. I think that was an old slogan somewhere.
Yeah. E.F. Hutton. When E.F. Hutton talks,
E.F. Hutton.
people listen.
Good for you, Kelly. Good for you.
Leave it to Kelly for the dated reference. I just referred to my Bluetooth stack as having been replaced with Folgers crystals recently. So yeah,
heard it.
Yeah, I'm good with the deep cut. I'm here for you.
Man. Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is MacVoices Live. We do this every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We'd love to have you join us, but if you can't do it live, you'll find these shows in the feeds. This one went longer. I'm probably going to break it up into at least 2, maybe even 3 parts, depending on where the conversation flows in the edit. But thank you so much for being here. We will see you next Tuesday, or we will see you on the next edition of MacVoices. Thanks for watching. I'm jumping back in here to remind you that the show is not over, in spite of the fact that it sounded like it is, because the conversation continued in the after show, and there were so many great points that I wanted to make sure we didn't lose anything. So back to it. That was really good. I got to tell you, the conversation went directions I did not anticipate at all.
I have so many feels about big data. So many feels. Based on science. But so many feels.
I'll be proved wrong one day, and that's fine. But listen, I agree with everything.
And I missed the whole opening, Warren. I was not wanting to pile on you in any way, shape, or form. I had no idea what was happening or that you asked a question.
I know I'm like one of the few people who listen. I just understand what's going. What you all do, I feel for them. I feel for Facebook because they're just trying to, that's how they make money, and it sucks, and there's issues with it, and it's not perfect, and certainly they're not telling us everything, and we should have the option to be in and out and to know.
At this point, it's not going to happen, because here's the thing. We have become, as a society, used to having free internet services. So if someone came along, and the problem with creating a new social network, number one is you have to get enough people in it in order to gain some traction. Mm-hmm. And you're not going to get that traction if you're telling people, well, we're not going to advertise to you, we're not going to collect data on you, but all you have to do is give us $3 to $5 a month. Well, the same people that will just keep hitting that button,
there's also a certain amount of uncertainty.
$5 a month.
And I will happily climb on Apple's back about this, and I have before, I think, on this show, is you want to feel like you understand what you're getting into. And that's part of why the free to start off is so incredibly appealing. Yep. If you don't have something like free trials. It's because you want to know, what am I getting into? Is anybody else there? And the free is a low barrier to entry. And you're right, like advertising does support that. And it is not necessarily problematic. My concerns are more in that Facebook in particular has been unapologetic with where their data goes and what they've done with it. And that it's just not just the data. When you hear them talk about AI, you hear all of these experts talk about their legitimate concerns, and Mark Zuckerberg saying, I don't think it's a problem. And if you don't think something's a problem, you can't possibly guard against it. And so that's why I make the Skynet joke that I made in the chat, was because like I do think that I think there's a lack of respect for how big things can get and how problematic they can become. Whereas I do trust Google to keep on and hold on to my data because it's valuable to them. Same with Amazon. I trust them to use it for their own advertising purposes.
For their own self-interests.
For their own self-interest, absolutely. And when I talk to people about Google who are concerned, I say, look, they have very good security, not great privacy. And what I mean by that is they will use it across sites to track you and to try to serve you advertisers or try to allow other people to serve you advertisements. And that's true. But they don't have a lot of big data breaches. They don't even have a lot of Cambridge Analytica type things. They don't have that. And so when we always lump security and privacy together, that is somewhat problematic. Do I respect Apple for trying to do both? Sure, but they're not perfect either.
No.
And
you're not lumping Google and Facebook in the same group, and I think that's not true.
I don't lump them together.
I think Google does pretty much a lot of what Facebook does, and they just haven't.
They have similar business models, for sure. But the track record of Google that is at least become publicly aware. For all I know, they're doing all kinds of crap I don't know about.
That's my point. Do we know what you don't know what they're collecting? Just like we don't know what Facebook's collecting.
Oh no, I know they're collecting it. It's whether or not they're distributing it.
We know
they definitely are. They definitely are. That's what they do.
That was never in question. It was the distribution of it, because we keep finding out that Facebook says we're not distributing in this way. Okay, but I have all this data from all the places that got it from you that said this is exactly how they got it, and you say that's not what happened. And I'm having a hard time reconciling this data.
We made a mistake.
Google saying
we'll
that they
do
are
better next time.
But is Google saying that
that shtick forever from them?
But
Google's doing the exact same thing. They're just
terrible at privacy. They're good at security. Facebook is terrible at both.
Yes,
but they're doing the same thing.
Well, Google's also good at lying.
Similar business model, but like it's like saying that Android and iOS are the same because they're both smartphones you can buy, or that Huawei is the same. Each company gets to choose how they're going to handle their own issues, their own data, and what they're going to do with it. I am in the group of people, maybe there's somebody else here who has been a paying customer of Google's and seen the data. With the small numbers of people I attracted, I could tie them back if I worked at it to the original people, but we're talking about like 10 people. So could I figure out who typed this particular thing based on who ended up calling me? I totally could. But I don't think big companies necessarily can do that. You can track it back, and that's one of the scary things with any kind of big data like that. But you can't do the backwards thing. That was one of the reasons that, even though some security people questioned it, that Apple introduced what was the title of it? Where they occasionally gave false information back to the servers.
Oh, yeah, the thing where it sends a generic profile
where it occasionally gives the wrong information on purpose in a randomized fashion.
Yeah,
selective. I don't have it. It was an attempt. Whether or not it's successful, I don't know the answer. I'm not a security person. The only difference was, and this sounds incredibly juvenile, actually, but like the attitude that I get from Facebook is different. That when something happens, and I want to be clear, we are able to connect with people from our past in a way that no previous generation has ever been able to do. And that is due to Facebook. They have done cool things by connecting people that we were never able to connect to before. Would I have any idea what on earth my cousin's up to because I have 1,000 of them? No. Sorry, I'm yelling into the mic. No, I wouldn't. Except if I go on Facebook, I can see what my cousin's doing. I can see her kids that I can't see right now in person. I can send everyone in my network pictures. Like, there are some awesome things that they've done, and I don't want to take away from that. But I do have concerns, A, about what happens when too much data is gathered in one place. and what can be done with it. I don't know what is being done with it, but what can be done with it.
Well, you could,
And then the
there's
track
people,
record.
but you could give it as little information as you want, and there are people out there like that. Don't just use it to connect to the people they want to connect to, and don't do anything else. And you can do that.
You can do that, but you're still giving up more information than you wanted to, because one of the things that Facebook does, like so many other sites, is they ping you, or they ask your web browser, give me data about who is connected right now. Now that data is what type of computer is this? What operating system is it running? What version is it running? What web browser are you using? What plugins do you have installed? What fonts are installed on this computer? Now, from that information, you can build a complete profile of someone that you can now use to track. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And then you can now use that to track a specific person. And as that person continues to do more online, you can narrow down and figure out exactly who that person is. So by doing stuff like this, you can actually never have a Facebook profile, and Facebook can have a complete profile.
And totally have a Facebook profile.
And when I gave up my entire contacts to Facebook, they didn't choose to give that information to Facebook. I gave it to them for them. They had no consent in that matter whatsoever. So it's not just the information we choose to give up.
Really, really screw with their minds and just use Comic Sans for everything.
Oh my God!
But I can tell you, as a technology
installed
coach,
on your system.
With
Who's
what
that
Jeff
mean
said,
to, guy?
if all I know about somebody as a technology coach who's worked with a lot of people, that if all I know about you is that you have an Android phone and a Mac computer, I can tell you things about your personality with a reasonable degree of success. It's not, and that's because it's not a large number of people. But I made that joke one time when I was giving a presentation and somebody said, I'm on Android and a Mac. And I was like, oh, you're one of those. And she goes, what do you mean? And I said, well, and I'm trying to backtrack because I don't want to get I blurted and I don't want to get in trouble. And I said, well, there's a tendency for people who have an Android phone and a Mac computer to be a person who cares a lot about very serious customization. And this was many years ago. And she goes, yeah, that's why I have that. But I could make other guesses about her just based on that information. And that's just me. I don't have access to big data. I've just met a bunch of people.
And that's because aggregate data tells you so much about a group of people, even if that group is like 10 people. Like, aggregate data about that group of people is a terrifying amount of information. Now, what that tells you about each individual person in that group is a much smaller percentage of like the data of a person, right? But like what I can tell you about a group of people walking by who are all clumped together, who are obviously all like, a social unit, right? Like, when you scale that up into hundreds of people, hundreds of thousands of people, like you have even more laser accuracy into certain things about that group of people once more people are involved. And, I don't know what there was a saying, maybe, I don't know, I've been reading a lot of Sherlock Holmes lately, but it was something about like groups of people, like a person is very smart and groups of people are very predictable.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I can't predict what Warren's going to do or what Guy's going to do or what Kelly's going to do. Right. But I can predict and slightly alter.
Are going to do.
Right.
Sounds like Asimov's Foundation series, Psychohistory.
Yeah.
I feel like I should do Asimov someday, and I haven't. Don't tell the other nerds.
It's okay.
But I think your observation about that person that used the Mac and the Android, okay, that was maybe not your first thought, but it was a thought, and it was an accurate one because they acknowledged it. And so right there, they've given up some data. Now, is that going to really harm them at all? No, but to pick on Warren a little bit, just something.
I don't want to pick on Warren anymore.
Well,
yeah, you do.
Well, not in a nasty way, but just that is something. That says something about Warren. Just like we're all Mac users, so that says something about us. And for better or worse, that says something about us.
We're all awesome.
Yeah, we are. Awesome.
Well,
That too.
that goes
At
without
least in
saying.
our own minds.
Yes.
Taller, thinner, better looking. Yeah, you know.
I feel like I think we just recorded after the break. I think we just recorded yet another episode of this because I think these are
And
unintentional.
I didn't even tell you the story about my friends that horrified and offended me.
And it wasn't
Next
me.
week.
It was
We'll do it
not
next
me.
week.
Wasn't her.
Can you tell it, or is it?
Yeah, I can. So I was getting ready for.
We're still
Huh?
live. We're still live.
Still recording.
Yeah, we're still recording and we're still live on the stream.
Oh.
So
Hey, have fun. So
The person I was about to yell at, I don't want to yell at them anymore. Sorry.
You're fine, Warren. We want to hear your opinion.
Not me. Not me.
So I have some friends, and I was asking them because I was trying to understand how health apps worked better on Android. I was not trying to challenge in any way, shape, or form their life choices. I just was giving a presentation on health and technology, and I was trying to understand how on earth that works on Android. And so I was talking to them, and one of them was on an iPhone, and she had sounded happy about it when we talked about it previously. She was like, yeah, I'm thinking about going back to Android. And then she said, but one of the things I'll miss is that my questionnaires won't give me cash anymore. I was like, what? Now, I want to remind you, I have a cog neuro degree, and I'm an ADHD coach, and what I care the most about in life is helping people make better use of their attention. Like, this is my life's mission. And they're like, yeah, these questionnaires we fill out. And they're like, yeah, we get these questionnaires and we get credit to our Play accounts. And I'm like, what? How does that work? And they get like 10 cents for filling out these questionnaires that Google gives them. And so my immediate reaction as the attention person is, I'm sorry, you do what now? Is your time and attention worth 10 cents to you? Like, I talk about hiring people to do jobs where I have to worry about taxes and crap. And because I can't manage all of the tasks myself because that's too much brain energy and too much attention. And they go, and they're like, yeah, we fill it out. And then I found out what the questionnaires were. They were, oh, when we tracked your location to this store, what did you buy from Google?
Oh, wow.
For 10 cents.
For 10 cents. They're like, oh, it just takes it just takes a couple of minutes. I was like, and so at first I was offended as a attention coach on their behalf. And then I was offended as a human being on my behalf.
Wow.
Because they share a lot in common with me. They just sold my information too. Yep.
That's
10 cents.
Scary.
10 cents.
I'm going to shut the stream down. So, folks, if you're still in the chat room, thank you so much for being here and sticking out.
Nice.
Yeah. Sleep
it's been
tight,
fun.
live stream.
Yeah.
Manage your attention better. That was a way better way to end.
If you're watching on Facebook,
Yeah. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CashFly at cashfly.com.